Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Pathfinder, staring at the massive alien structure floating in space ahead of them. The space station was unlike anything humans had ever built. It looked like a giant flower made of metal and glass, with petals that glowed with soft blue light. Each petal was bigger than 3 human cities put together. "Sir, we're getting a message," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her seat at the communications panel. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as strange sounds filled the bridge. "Can you understand it?" Jake asked. "The computer is working on it now, sir." "Wait." "Yes, it's coming through clearly now." A voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English, but with an odd musical tone. "Welcome, creatures of the 3rd planet. We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have been watching your species for some time. You have finally learned to travel between the stars. This is good. We wish to meet with you." Jake looked at his crew. They had been traveling for 6 months to reach this place after picking up alien signals. Now they were actually talking to beings from another world. He took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship USS Pathfinder. We come in peace and wish to learn about other life in the galaxy." "Good. We will send a shuttle to bring your leaders to our station. Bring no more than 6 of your kind. You will be safe." 2 hours later, Jake found himself walking through corridors that seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. The walls were smooth and warm to the touch, glowing with the same blue light they had seen from outside. With him were Commander Lisa Park, his weapons officer, Dr. Alex Rodriguez, the ship's scientist, Lieutenant Amy Foster, Sergeant Mike Davis from Byung-Sin, the Marine unit, and Ensign Dan Cooper, their youngest crew member. They entered a huge room with a ceiling so high they could barely see the top. Waiting for them were creatures that looked nothing like humans. The one in front had 4 arms and stood 8 feet tall. Its skin was dark green and covered with what looked like tiny scales. Its head was shaped like a triangle with 3 large, black eyes. "I am Ambassador Vexthil of the Kithara race," the creature said, its voice coming from a device around its neck. "I speak for the Zephyrian Collective, which includes 12 different species from across this part of the galaxy." Behind Vexthil stood other aliens that were just as strange. One looked like a walking tree with silver bark. Another was covered in thick fur and had 6 legs. A third seemed to be made of living crystal that changed colors as it moved. "We have ruled this region of space for over 3,000 of your years," Vexthil continued. "Any new species that wishes to travel among the stars must prove they are worthy. Some join us willingly. Others do not." Jake felt a chill run down his back, but he kept his voice steady. "What do you mean by prove we are worthy?" "You must show us your military strength. All species must be able to defend themselves and their allies. Those who are too weak become protected. They serve those who are strong enough to keep them safe." Commander Lisa Park stepped forward. "You want to see our weapons? Yes? Show us what your species has created for war." Lisa looked at Jake, who nodded. She activated a small device in her hand, and images appeared in the air above them. The first image showed a railgun, a long metal tube that could fire projectiles at incredible speed. "This is our primary ship weapon," Lisa explained. "It fires solid metal rounds using magnetic force. The projectiles can punch through 3 feet of steel." The aliens looked at the image and made sounds that the translation device turned into laughter. Vexthil's 3 eyes seemed to shine with amusement. "You throw rocks at your enemies? How primitive." Lisa's face grew red, but she continued. The next image showed a plasma cannon. "This weapon fires superheated gas that can melt through most materials." More laughter from the aliens. "You heat gas and shoot it? Our children play with such toys." The images continued. nuclear warheads that could destroy entire cities, kinetic bombardment systems that dropped metal rods from space, laser weapons that could cut through solid rock. Each weapon brought more. Laughter from the alien delegation. Finally, Lisa showed their newest weapon, a cannon that fired shells containing antimatter. This is our most powerful weapon. One shot can destroy a small moon. The laughter stopped for a moment, then started. Again, even louder than before. You still think in terms of crude explosions and simple projectiles, Vexthal said, shaking his triangular head. Let us show you what real weapons look like. The alien ambassador waved one of his 4 hands, and new images appeared in the air. The first showed a ship firing what looked like pure energy. The beam hit an asteroid, and the huge rock simply disappeared. Quantum disruptors, Vexthal explained. They tear apart matter at the smallest level. Nothing can survive them. The next image showed a ship surrounded by a shimmering field. Dozens of projectiles fired at it simply bounced away like raindrops. Energy shields. They can stop any physical attack. Your metal rocks would be like dust against them. The final image showed something that made Jake's blood run cold. A weapon that seemed to bend space itself, crushing an entire planet into a ball the size of a basketball. Gravitational weapons. We can collapse your entire solar system if we choose. The room fell silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. He looked at his crew and saw the same fear in their eyes that he felt in his chest. Now you see the difference between primitive and advanced warfare, Vexthal said. Your weapons are what our ancestors used millions of years ago. We have moved beyond such crude methods. The alien leaned forward, his 3 black eyes fixed on Jake. We offer your species a choice, Captain Morrison. Join the collective as a protected species. We will keep you safe from other threats in the galaxy. In return, you will serve us and follow our rules. Or ... or what? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. Or you can try to remain independent with your primitive weapons. We have seen many species make that choice. None of them exist anymore. Jake felt the weight of his entire species resting on his shoulders. Around him, his crew waited for his response. The aliens watched with what looked like amusement, as if they were watching children play at being adults. I need time to discuss this with my government, Jake said finally. Of course. We are not unreasonable. You have 72 of your hours to decide. We will wait here for your answer. As the humans were escorted back to their shuttle, Jake could still hear the aliens laughing behind them. The sound followed them all the way back to their ship, where Jake would have to send the most important message in human history back to Earth. Humanity had found other life in the galaxy, and that life thought humans were nothing more than children playing with sticks and stones. The emergency session began 30 minutes after Captain Morrison's message reached Earth. President Helen Carter sat at the head of a long table in the underground command center beneath Washington. Around her were the most important people in human government and military. General Carl Bennett, the head of all Earth's armed forces, looked grim as he studied the alien footage on his tablet. Defense Secretary Nina Walsh tapped her fingers nervously on the table. So let me understand this correctly, President Carter said, her voice tight with stress. These aliens have weapons that can destroy planets, shields that stop all our attacks, and they think our military is a joke. That's correct, Madam President, General Bennett replied. According to Captain Morrison's report, they laughed at everything we showed them. Our most advanced weapons looked like toys to them. Nina Walsh leaned forward. What are our options? Can we fight them? With what? Bennett asked. They have 50 ships in their fleet, each one bigger than our largest. Space station. Their shields can stop nuclear weapons. Their guns can tear apart matter itself. So we surrender? President Carter asked quietly. The room fell silent. Nobody wanted to say it, but everyone was thinking the same thing. How could humans fight an enemy that was thousands of years ahead of them in technology? Dr. Alex Rodriguez raised his hand from the far end of the table. He was a thin man with gray hair who ran the Advanced Weapons Research Division. Most people forgot he was even there during these meetings. May I suggest something? He asked. President Carter nodded. Please, Alex, we need all the ideas we can get. Dr. Rodriguez stood up and walked to the large screen at the front of the room. I've been studying the alien weapon demonstrations. Their technology is impressive, but it has a weakness. What kind of weakness? General Bennett asked. They're too advanced, Rodriguez said. Everything they showed us was energy-based. Pure energy weapons, energy shields, gravitational manipulation. They've moved so far beyond physical weapons that they may have forgotten how to defend against them. Enya Walsh frowned. But they said their shields stop all physical attacks. They said they stop any physical attack they know about, Rodriguez corrected. But what if we use something they don't know about? He pressed a button, and the screen showed a simple diagram of Earth. Our planet has something unique. We've been mining it for the past 5 years, but we didn't know how special it was until now. The diagram zoomed in to show several mining sites around the world. Terranium. It's an element that exists only on Earth. We found it deep underground, and it has some very strange properties. What kind of properties? President Carter asked. It exists in a quantum state that interferes with energy fields. When we tried to use energy weapons on terranium samples, the weapons stopped working. The element seems to disrupt the basic forces that power advanced technology. General Bennett looked interested for the first time since the meeting started. Are you saying this terranium could stop their weapons? Better than that, Rodriguez said with a small smile. I think it could make our weapons work against their shields. He clicked to the next slide, which showed a bullet coated with a thin layer of silver metal. If we coat our projectiles with terranium, they might pass right through alien energy shields. The shields are designed to stop known physical objects and energy attacks. They won't know how to handle something that disrupts their basic technology. President. Carter stood up, suddenly energized. How much terranium do we have? Enough to coat millions of bullets, artillery shells, and other projectiles. We can also make bladed weapons with terranium edges. Bladed weapons? Enya Walsh asked. You mean swords and knives? Exactly. If their personal shields can't handle terranium, then a simple knife might be more effective than our most advanced rifle. General Bennett was already making notes on his tablet. How long would it take to modify our weapons? 48 hours for the first batch. We can coat bullets and artillery shells pretty quickly. Bladed weapons will take a bit longer. President Carter looked around the table. What about our space fleet? We have 8 ships that can fight, Bennett said. Not much against 50. Alien dreadnoughts, but if Rodriguez is right about the terranium, we might have a chance. The president made her decision. Do it. Get every weapon we have coated with this terranium. I want soldiers training with swords and crossbows if that's what it takes. Crossbows? Walsh asked in surprise. If energy shields can't stop a terranium-tipped arrow, then crossbows might be our best weapon, Rodriguez explained. General Bennett was already on his communicator, giving orders to bases around the world. I want Colonel Steve Parker here. Immediately. He's our best Special Forces commander. An hour later, Colonel Parker stood in the same room. He was a big man with short brown hair and scars on his hands from years of combat training. He listened quietly as they explained this situation. So you want me to create a unit that fights aliens with swords and arrows? He asked when they were finished. That's exactly what we want, President Carter said. Can you do it? Parker smiled for the first time since entering the room. "Ma'am, I've been training soldiers for 20 years. Most of them grew up playing video games about fighting with medieval weapons. I think they'll adapt just fine. How many men do you need?" General Bennett asked. "Give me 200 of our best soldiers. I'll have them ready to fight with anything from crossbows to battle axes." Dr. Rodriguez cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. We should test the terranium coating as soon as possible. I need to make sure it actually works before we bet humanity's survival on it." "What kind of test?" President Carter asked. "We have some alien technology that Captain Morrison's team collected from the space station. Small pieces that fell off their equipment. If I can create a small energy field similar to their shields, we can test whether terranium projectiles can penetrate it." General Bennett nodded. "Make it happen. We have less than 60 hours before Captain Morrison has to give them our answer." As the meeting ended, people scattered in all directions. Dr. Rodriguez hurried to his laboratory to begin the most important experiment in human history. Colonel Parker headed to the training facility to select his team of warriors. General Bennett coordinated with military bases around the world to begin the massive job of coating millions of weapons with terranium. President Carter remained in the command center, staring at the screen that showed the alien fleet waiting near Jupiter. In less than 3 days, humanity would either surrender to these aliens or go to war with weapons that were thousands of years old. She thought about her daughter, who was studying at college and didn't even know that aliens existed. She thought about all the humans living their normal lives, unaware that their entire future was being decided in rooms like this one. "We're not going to surrender," she said quietly to the empty room. "If they want to rule humanity, they're going to have to fight for it." Outside, the sun was setting over Washington. Around the world, humans were preparing for a war unlike any in their history. Ancient weapons were being prepared to fight technology from the stars. It seemed impossible, but it was their only chance. The aliens had laughed at human weapons. Soon, they would discover that some jokes weren't funny at all. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the clock count down the final minutes. In 30 seconds, he would have to give Ambassador Vexthil humanity's answer. Behind him, Commander Lisa Park checked her weapon systems one more time. The ship's guns were loaded with terranium-coated rounds. Though Jake wasn't sure they would work, the communications panel beeped. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it on screen." Ambassador Vexthil appeared on the main display, his 3 black eyes staring directly at Jake. Behind the alien, Jake could see the bridge of a massive ship filled with creatures he couldn't identify. "Captain Morrison, your time is up. What is your species' decision?" Jake stood up slowly. He thought about President Carter's final message, about the 200 soldiers Colonel Parker had trained in the past 2 days, about Dr. Rodriguez's promise that terranium would work. Most of all, he thought about what it meant to be human. "Ambassador Vexthil, I speak for all humanity when I say this. We respectfully decline your offer. We will remain independent." The alien's triangle-shaped head tilted to one side. For a moment, Jake thought he saw surprise in those black eyes. "You choose death over wisdom, Captain Morrison. This is unfortunate, but not unexpected. Primitive species often make such foolish decisions." The screen filled with images of the Zephyrian war fleet. 50 massive ships moved into formation around Earth's solar system. Each ship was over 2 miles long and bristled with weapons that could tear apart planets. Jake had never seen anything so terrifying in his life. "You will watch as we demonstrate why advanced technology always defeats primitive weapons," Vexthil continued. "Perhaps other young species will learn from your mistake." The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew. You all know what we're facing. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle back to Earth. Nobody moved. Ensign Dan Cooper, barely 22, years old, spoke up from his station. Sir, with respect, we're not going anywhere. Jake felt proud of his crew, even as he worried they were all about to die. The alien fleet split into groups. The largest force headed toward Earth, while smaller groups moved toward the human colonies on Mars and the mining stations around Jupiter. Jake watched on his tactical display as 3 human ships moved to intercept the aliens heading for the Jupiter mines. Sir, Lisa Park called out, Captain Roy Adams on the USS Defender is requesting to speak with you. Roy's face appeared on a smaller screen. He was an older man with white hair and calm blue eyes. Jake, looks like we're about to find out if Rodriguez's miracle coding actually works. Any regrets, Roy? Only that I won't get to see my granddaughter. Graduate next month. But if this works, maybe she'll get the chance to grow up free. The first battle began at the Jupiter mining station. Jake watched through long-range sensors as War Commander Vexner led 12 alien ships toward the human defenders. The mining station had only basic defenses, a few gun turrets and energy shields, designed to stop space debris. The alien ships opened fire first. Beams of pure energy sliced through the station's shields, like they weren't even there. Sections of the mining platform exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Jake watched hundreds of miners die in seconds, but then something unexpected happened. Private Dan Cooper was manning one of the station's gun turrets when the aliens attacked. He was using his great-grandfather's name, chosen to honor the old man who had fought in 3 Earth wars. As alien fighters swooped toward his position, Dan aimed his modified rifle and fired. The bullet, coated with a thin layer of terranium, flew straight at the nearest alien ship. Dan expected it to bounce off the energy shield like all the other shots. Instead, the bullet passed through the shimmering barrier as if it wasn't there and punched a hole in the ship's hull. The alien fighter spun out of control and crashed into an asteroid. What the hell? Dan whispered, then started firing as fast as he could. Every shot went through the alien shields. Every shot found its target. On the USS Defender, Captain Adams saw what was happening through his ship's cameras. All weapons target the alien ships. Use only the terranium-coated rounds. The human ships opened fire with their railguns. The metal projectiles, each one coated with Earth's unique element, punched through energy shields that had protected the Zephyrian fleet for centuries. Alien ships that had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves taking damage. Lieutenant Amy Watson led a team of Marines armed with modified crossbows and arrows tipped with terranium. When alien boarding parties tried to take the mining station, they found themselves facing weapons they didn't understand. Their personal energy shields, designed to stop laser rifles and plasma bolts, offered no protection against arrows that seemed to ignore energy fields entirely. War Commander Vexner watched in confusion as his forces took heavy casualties. The humans were using the same primitive weapons his people had dismissed, but somehow they were working. His shields couldn't stop them. His armor couldn't deflect them. Retreat, he ordered. Fall back to the main fleet. But it was too late for many of his ships. The humans, fighting with desperate courage, had destroyed 6 alien vessels and damaged 4 others. Only 2 of Vexner's ships escaped without damage. Jake watched the battle results come in and felt a surge of hope. Lisa, send a message to all human forces. The terranium coding works. Repeat, the coding works. On Earth, Colonel Parker received the message while training his Special Forces unit. 200 soldiers had spent the past 2 days learning to fight with swords, spears, crossbows, and even slings. They looked like medieval knights, except their weapons were coated with an element from the future. "You heard the man," Parker told his troops. "Our ancestors fought with these weapons for thousands of years. Time to show these aliens that old doesn't mean useless." Dr. Rodriguez was in his laboratory, working on more advanced applications of terranium when the battle reports reached him. His hands shook as he read the results. The element he had discovered in Earth's deep mines was actually working against technology thousands of years, more advanced than humanity's. But the celebration was short-lived. Ambassador Vextel's voice echoed across every human communication channel in the solar system. "Impossible weapons will not save you, humans. You have destroyed a few of our scouts, nothing more. Now you will face the full power of the Zephyrian Collective." The main alien fleet began moving toward Earth. 44 massive dreadnoughts, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a continent. Behind them came support ships filled with ground troops, ready to land on Earth's surface. Jake knew that the small victory at Jupiter was just the beginning. The real battle was about to start, and despite their success with terranium weapons, humanity was still outnumbered 50-1. "All ships, prepare for battle," he announced to the human fleet. "Today we find out what our species is really made of." In the cargo bay of the USS Pathfinder, Sergeant Mike Davis checked his equipment. One more time. He carried a rifle with terranium-coated bullets, a sword with a terranium edge, and a crossbow that his grandfather would have recognized. It seemed crazy to fight aliens with medieval weapons, but crazy was all they had left. The alien fleet approached Earth like a dark cloud, blotting out the stars. Humanity's 8 ships moved to meet them, carrying weapons that were both ancient and revolutionary. The battle for Earth's independence was about to begin. Admiral Bill Turner stood on the bridge of the USS Freedom, watching the massive alien fleet approach Earth. Behind him, the voices of his crew mixed with reports from ships across the solar system. Captain Kate Miller's voice came through clearly. From the USS Victory, positioned near Mars, Captain Tony Clark reported ready from the USS Justice, defending the outer planets. "Sir, the alien fleet is splitting up," reported Commander Lisa Park from her position at the tactical station. 30 ships heading for Earth, 10 moving toward our outer colonies, and 4 staying back as reserves. Turner nodded grimly. Even with their recent success at Jupiter, the numbers were still terrible. 8 human ships against 44 alien dreadnoughts. But they had something the aliens didn't expect. "All ships, remember your orders," Turner announced on the fleet channel. "Stay close to the enemy. Make them board us. That's where our advantage lies." The space battle began exactly as everyone expected. The Zephyrian quantum disruptors tore through human ships like paper. The USS Challenger exploded in the first volley, its crew of 200 lost in seconds. The USS Defender took a direct hit from a gravitational weapon and was crushed into a ball of twisted metal. But Admiral Turner had planned for this. The human ships weren't trying to win a long-range battle. They were trying to survive long enough to get close. Captain Tony Clark pushed his engines to maximum power and drove the USS Justice straight at the nearest alien dreadnought. Enemy fire pounded his shields, but he held course. When the distance closed to boarding range, alien fighters swarmed around his ship. "Boarding parties incoming," his weapons officer announced. "Good," Clark replied. "Let them come." The aliens cut through the hull with energy weapons and poured into the ship. They wore advanced armor and carried weapons that could disintegrate a human with one shot. Their personal shields shimmered around them like protective bubbles. Waiting for them were human Marines armed with terranium-coated swords and crossbows. Sergeant Mike Davis met the first wave of aliens in Corridor 7. The creatures were 8 feet tall with 4 arms each, moving with deadly grace. Their leader pointed a weapon at Mike that looked like a glowing crystal. Mike raised his crossbow and fired. The terranium-tipped bolt passed through the alien's energy shield and buried itself in the creature's chest. The alien collapsed, green blood spreading across the floor. "They can't stop our weapons," Mike shouted to his squad. Close combat. Only. The battle inside the USS Justice became a nightmare of close-quarters fighting. Aliens with advanced technology found themselves being cut down by humans with swords and spears. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against terranium-coated blades. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the real shock was about to begin. Colonel Steve Parker had positioned his primitive warfare division around major cities. Across the planet, 200 soldiers armed with crossbows, swords, and modified firearms waited in hidden positions. They looked like they had stepped out of a history book, but each weapon was coated with Earth's most valuable element. The first alien dropships landed in Central Park in New York City. The ships were massive, each one carrying 50 alien warriors in advanced battle armor. These weren't the same species humans had met before. These were the Zephyrian shock troops. Bred for war. The aliens emerged from their ships confident and ready. Their armor could stop tank shells. Their weapons could cut through solid steel. Their shields could deflect any known projectile. They had never faced humans with crossbows before. Private Kelly Watson crouched behind a fallen tree, watching the aliens advance through the park. They moved in perfect formation, their energy shields creating a wall of shimmering light around them. Kelly raised her crossbow and aimed at the lead alien. The terranium-tipped arrow flew true. It passed through the creature's shield like it wasn't there and struck the alien in the center of its chest plate. The advanced armor, designed to stop energy weapons and conventional bullets, couldn't handle the quantum disruption caused by terranium. The alien fell, and chaos erupted. More arrows flew from hidden positions around the park. Humans with swords charged from behind trees and buildings. The aliens, caught completely off guard, tried to adapt to this impossible situation. Their training had prepared them for energy weapons, plasma rifles, and advanced military tactics. Nobody had taught them how to fight humans with medieval weapons. That ignored their most basic defenses. Lieutenant Amy Foster led a squad of soldiers armed with terranium-coated spears through the streets of London. The aliens had expected to face modern military units with predictable weapons. Instead, they found themselves fighting warriors who seemed to come from Earth's ancient past. The same scene played out across the planet. In Tokyo, Captain Roy Adams led defenders armed with modified katana swords against alien boarding parties. In Berlin, Major Grace Kelly's unit used crossbows and arrows to stop alien flyers that had been untouchable moments before. But the turning point came when Colonel Parker himself led an assault on the alien command ship the massive vessel had. Landed in Washington, D.C., crushing several city blocks under its weight. From inside, alien commanders coordinated the invasion of Earth. They felt safe behind their most advanced shields and strongest armor. Parker and 50 of his best soldiers approached the ship, carrying nothing but terranium-coated swords, knives, and crossbows. To the aliens watching through their sensors, it looked like a suicide mission. The humans cut through the ship's outer defenses using charges enhanced with terranium. Once inside, they moved quickly through corridors designed for much larger beings. Every alien they encountered fell to weapons the creatures couldn't understand or defend against. Parker reached the bridge and found himself face to face with Ambassador Vexthel himself. The alien leader was surrounded by his most advanced personal guards, each one protected by shields that could stop starship weapons. "Impossible," Vexthel said, staring at the humans with their primitive weapons. "Your species should not be able to reach this place." Parker raised his sword, its terranium edge glowing slightly in the alien ship's strange light. "You made one mistake, Ambassador. You forgot that sometimes the old ways work better than the new ones. The battle on the bridge lasted only minutes. The alien guards, with all their advanced technology, fell to human weapons that were thousands of years old, but enhanced with an element they had never encountered. When Ambassador Vex Thul himself fell to Parker's sword, the alien invasion began to collapse. Without their command structure, alien forces across Earth found themselves facing human defenders who seemed to be immune to their most advanced weapons in space. The remaining human ships continued their desperate close-quarters fighting. Admiral Turner's strategy was working. Every time the aliens tried to board human vessels, they lost more troops to weapons they couldn't defend against. Captain Kate Miller, fighting alongside Marine Lieutenant Dan Cooper, managed to capture an entire alien battleship using nothing but modified rifles and crossbows. The alien crew, faced with weapons that passed through their shields like they didn't exist, surrendered rather than face more losses. By the end of the day, the impossible had happened. Humanity, using weapons their ancestors would have recognized, had defeated the most advanced military force in their part of the galaxy. The aliens who had laughed at human weapons were no longer laughing. They were running their mighty fleet, scattered and broken by soldiers carrying swords and shooting arrows. Earth had won its independence, and the galaxy would never be the same. The white flag came from the largest remaining alien ship 3 hours after Ambassador Vex Thul's death. Sub-Admiral Kethver, a creature that looked like a walking tree with silver bark, appeared on every human communication channel at once. We request to speak with your leaders, the alien said, its voice shaking through the translation device. We wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict. President Helen Carter stood in the rebuilt White House Situation Room, surrounded by her military advisors. Outside, she could see the wreckage of alien dropships scattered across the National Mall. Human soldiers with crossbows and swords were still searching the area for survivors. Put him through, she ordered. Sub-Admiral Kethver's image appeared on the main screen. Behind him, other alien commanders looked defeated and confused. These were beings who had conquered dozens of star systems, but they had been beaten by humans using weapons from their own ancient past. President Carter, Kethver began, we formally request a ceasefire. Our forces will withdraw from your system immediately. General Carl Bennett leaned forward. What about the terms you offered us 3 days ago? Join your collective or face destruction? The aliens' branch-like arms moved in what might have been embarrassment. Those terms no longer apply. We did not understand what we were facing. Dr. Alex Rodriguez had been quiet during most of the negotiations, but now he spoke up. Would you like to understand? Kethver's large eyes focused on the scientist. Very much. Our entire military doctrine is based on energy warfare. We have never encountered weapons that could penetrate our shields while ignoring our defensive systems. Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing the molecular structure of terranium. This element exists only on Earth. It has unique quantum properties that disrupt energy fields. When we coat our weapons with it, they can pass through your shields because the shields don't recognize them as threats. The alien commanders studied the display with obvious fascination. One of them, a creature covered in thick blue fur, spoke up. This is impossible. Such an element would destabilize the basic forces that hold matter together. Not destabilize, Rodriguez corrected. It creates temporary quantum tunnels that allow physical objects to pass through energy barriers. We're still learning about it ourselves. President Carter took control of the conversation. Here are our terms, Sub-Admiral. Your forces will withdraw from human space immediately. You will recognize Earth and all human colonies as independent territory. In return, we won't pursue your retreating ships. Kethver looked relieved. These terms are acceptable, but may I ask, Would your people consider a trade agreement? Defense Secretary Nina Walsh raised an eyebrow. Trade? You just tried to conquer us. That was before we understood your capabilities, the alien replied quickly. Your terranium could revolutionize galactic technology. There are other species in the galaxy who pose threats to everyone, including humans. If we could combine your unique weapons with our advanced ships and shields. General Bennett was interested despite himself. What kind of threats? Another alien commander, one that looked like living crystal, answered. The void hunters from the galaxy's edge. They consume entire star systems. The machine collective that turns planets into factories. The shadow lords who exist partly outside normal space. All of them use energy-based technology similar to ours. President Carter considered this. You're saying that other species might have the same problem with terranium weapons that you did? Exactly, Kethver confirmed. Your weapons would be effective against most known military technologies. But you would need our ships to reach these threats, and our shields to protect you from weapons you haven't encountered yet. Dr. Rodriguez was already thinking about the possibilities. We could create hybrid technologies. Terranium enhanced. Energy shields that could stop both physical and energy attacks. Weapons that combined human projectiles with alien guidance systems. The negotiations continued for 6 more hours. In the end, they reached an agreement that surprised everyone. The Zephyrian Collective would become humanity's first galactic ally, trading their advanced technology for small amounts of terranium and dye. Access to human weapons expertise, but the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. 2 weeks later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned USS Explorer, leading a joint human-alien fleet toward the edge of known space. His crew included humans and aliens working together, sharing knowledge that had been developed over thousands of years. Commander Lisa Park was training alien weapons officers in the use of terranium-coated projectiles. The aliens were amazed by the effectiveness of weapons they had considered obsolete, while humans learned about energy manipulation and faster-than-light travel. On Earth, Colonel Steve Parker's Primitive Warfare Division had become the Special Operations Command, the most elite military unit in human space. Soldiers from across the galaxy came to Earth to train in primitive combat techniques that were proving devastatingly effective against advanced enemies. The first test came 6 months later when the Void Hunters attacked a peaceful star system near the galactic rim. The combined human-alien fleet arrived to find massive creatures the size of space stations consuming entire planets. The Void Hunters had energy shields that could stop any known weapon. Their hulls were made of living metal that could regenerate from most damage. Previous battles against them had always ended in defeat for the galaxy's defenders, but they had never faced crossbows and swords enhanced with terranium. Lieutenant Amy Foster led a boarding party onto a Void Hunter vessel, armed with weapons that looked like they belonged in a medieval castle. The creatures inside were enormous and terrifying, but their natural energy shields couldn't stop terranium-tipped arrows. The battle was fierce, but the result was never really in doubt. The Void Hunters, like the Zephyrian Collective before them, discovered that sometimes the oldest solutions were the most effective. Word of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millions of years began requesting human military advisors. The techniques developed by Colonel Parker's soldiers became standard training for military forces throughout known space. Dr. Rodriguez established the Galactic Weapons Research Institute on Earth, where scientists from dozens of species worked together to develop new hybrid technologies. They created energy weapons enhanced with terranium, shields that could stop both physical and energy attacks, and ships that combined the best of human and alien engineering. But perhaps the most important development was cultural. The galaxy had learned that advancement didn't always mean abandoning the past. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution was also the simplest one. A year after the first contact, Admiral Morrison received a message from a species called the Crystal Builders, who lived on the far side of the galaxy. They had heard about humanity's unique weapons and wanted to establish peaceful relations. "We have watched other species rise and fall for millions of years," their message said. "Most become so focused on advancement that they forget the wisdom of their ancestors. Your species seems to understand that the future is built on the foundation of the past." Morrison smiled as he read the message. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not by trying to match alien technology, but by remembering what made them human in the first place. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it turned out that sometimes the most important discoveries were the ones that had been sitting in your own backyard all along. The aliens had laughed at human weapons, but they weren't laughing anymore. They were learning.